For this video, we're going to be looking at 6 through 10 at an in-depth pace. I'm going to take our time and go through these questions. So let's look at number 6. It says, on an XY plane, a line is graphed with a slope of -4 and it passes through the point 0, 7. That would be the y-intercept. The equation y equals vx plus n represents the line where v and n are constants. What is the value of v? Okay, you're definitely going to want to know the equation y equals mx plus b. That is a very commonly used equation. It's slope-intercept form. That will not be provided on the formula sheet, so you want to memorize that one. And for y equals mx plus b, we know that the number in front of x is considered the slope. So when we look at their version of the equation, they are looking for v, which means they are looking for slope. And they told us that. They told us the slope is -4. So all you'd have to do here is just put v equals -4, and you would be done. Okay, so remember your y equals mx plus b equation, slope-intercept form, and remember that b would also be the y-intercept in case they were looking for that instead of the slope. All right, moving on to 7. This says, what is an x-intercept for the graph of that expression on the xy plane? Okay, there's two ways to do this. I would suggest just graphing that expression on Desmos. Okay, so you could pull up your graphing calculator right on the test that's provided, and you could type that all in. I already have it typed there, and you would see a x to the third graph that goes up and then down and then up again. And each of these points is an x-intercept. Okay, that's what they're looking for. That's where it crosses the x-intercept. And they don't want just the x value. They're asking for the whole intercept. So you could write down any of those three coordinates would be correct. Okay, I'll write down, let's say, the middle one. So I could say -2, 0. And that I would be correct. You could write any of those down. Another way to do that is to know that the x-intercept happens when y equals 0. Okay, so you could use any of these three parts of the factors, okay, and basically look at it, let's look at the one we used, x plus 2. What value of x makes that part of the equation equal to 0? Well, you can see there that -2 plus 2 would be 0. So that would work. So again, you could do that without a graph pretty quickly. If you remember, it's just the opposites of the factors, or you could punch that into Desmos and visually look at that. Okay. Looking on to number 8, it says triangles RST. Let's just draw that real quick. We'll call that RST. And DEF are congruent, so they're the same. Okay, so the two triangles would be the exact same. DEF might help to draw that and visualize it. And the vertices correspond in the given order. The measure of the angle S is 40 degrees. Okay. And the measure of angle T is 25 degrees. What is the measure of angle E? So this is kind of just extra information we don't need to know. They're looking for this equation right here. We can see that S and E correspond, so B would be the correct answer. You could also notice that in the order right here, okay, without drawing it, you see that S and E are in the same order. So if S is 40, then E would have to be 40 as well. Okay. Moving on to number 9. Got a little graph and an explanation here. It says Julia purchased some cryptocurrency. The graph below shows the approximate value of her crypto in dollars as a function of the number of weeks that have passed since her purchase. What information does the y-intercept communicate? So the y-intercept is this point right here, which is $300. Okay, so let's think about this graph. What they're saying here is Julia started with $300, and each week up to 8 weeks, you can see at the bottom there, each week she's actually losing a little more money. This is decaying exponentially. It's going down a little more each week. But they're just asking, what does this $300 communicate? So we don't need to know anything else other than to say Julia's starting with $300. Okay. So we're going to come down here and look at these explanations. A says the estimated value of the cryptocurrency after 8 weeks is $300. That's not true. After 8 weeks would be right there. Okay. Which is about 170 or so. B says the cryptocurrency has decreased exponentially since its purchase. That's true, but that's not what the question is asking. C says the estimated value of the currency at the time of purchase was $300. That is exactly what we're looking for. And then, so D is irrelevant. C answers our question. And last one here, number 10, it says for the function f of x equals 1/4 x plus 8, what is the value of f of 12? Okay, well, notice here that you have f of x. So if they're looking for f of 12, they're saying when x is 12, what do I get for this function? So I can simply plug in 12 for x. Okay, so we have 1/4 12 plus 8. So we have to add the parentheses first. Okay, so we're going to do 12 plus 8 is 20. And 1/4 of 20, you could punch that in a calculator or just know that off the top of your head. 1/4 of 20 is 5. Multiple choice is nice. We know that my answer is C there. Okay. For functions, anytime you see like what is f of 12 or any number in there, they're just asking you to plug that in for x and solve the equation. So can sound a little tricky, but it's actually pretty straightforward. For questions 11 through 15, click the link on the screen or in the video description. Thanks.